With his latest updates to the TR-8S and TR-6S drum machines, Roland has added a new chromatic bass mode. What this is, in effect, is a tunable version of the 808 kick drum that we can use as a tuned bass line. Using 808 kicks as a bass element is a common technique throughout hip-hop, R&B, trap and electronic genres like techno. Let's take a look at how it works here with the TR-8S, as well as a few tips on how we can make these tuned kicks really work well. Let's start by adding a chromatic bass element on this channel here instead of the snare drum. We're going to start by selecting the snare channel. We hit Instrument and use Shift to scroll down to the bass menu. You'll see the first option in the bass menu is 808 chromatic bass. Now, to make these tunes kicks work, what we need to do is set the control so that it can control the pitch of each different bass drum hit. So we're going to do that by pressing Control Select. And then we hold this down in user mode and turn till we find ACB course. And what that means is that this knob will now change the course tuning of this emulated 808 kick. Now let's program some drum hits. First thing we need to do is make sure motion recording is on, otherwise we won't be able to use this tuning. Let's reset this control to 0 and we're going to set the course tuning down to -24. And what that does is that gives us this kick tuned to a low C note. So now any adjustments, plus or minus, we make to this control will move us in incrementations of semitones above or below C. So again, making sure motion recording is on, we're going to hold down some of these program notes and we use these copy and utility buttons to browse to the control option here and then turn the control to make changes. And we need to do that for each of these notes where we want a change of tuning. And that's how we get a tuned bass line out of the TR-8S. You'll hear from that bass sound that it's quite lacking in attack. And obviously its tuned nature means it functions more as a melodic element than a percussive one. So in any drum groove, we're probably going to want to include a standard kick drum alongside this bass element. Because they're both low elements, having both a kick and a kick bass in play is often going to cause clashes, which can be a bit awkward when it comes down to mixing. So what can we do to avoid that? Obviously, the most simple way to avoid any clashes is to simply program a kick and a bass on different notes, on different steps in our sequence. So for example, if we get rid of these notes on our bass line, maybe put one in just here, and then have our kick hitting on different steps, and turn the decay down on kick. You can hear that we kind of avoid any problems with clashing by having a percussive kick and long tuned bass. on different steps. However, that's not always going to work with every composition. So what can we do if we want to have the bass and the kick hitting on the same step? The way you would approach this in a DAW or any bit of software is to apply sidechain compression. This would mean that we could set a compressor so that this tuned bass line would duck out of the way when our percussive kick hits. However, although we have a compressor on board here, we don't have an option to sidechain. But there are some things we can do to sort of emulate the same kind of effect. So here we're going to program some kicks to land on the same notes as our bass line. Now what we can do is we can turn the decay right down on this bass drum here, increase its attack, and maybe raise its tuning as well, so that this 808 kick here becomes more of a short and sharp hit. So we're getting all the attack without the low end tail that's going to clash with our bass line. To refine this further, we can increase the attack on our bass part here. We'll do this by going into the instrument, holding down Shift and Edit, and we can scroll up and down until we find this attack option. Press Enter, and then if we turn the attack right down, you can hear we're kind of decreasing that initial attack element from the bass line completely. And now if we bring in our punchy attack kick, we're left with separate attack and tuned bass elements. So our bass line has lots of nice low end weight, but it's kind of lacking in mid-range that will help it cut through on weaker speakers, such as a phone or basic headphones. So what we can do to increase that is add a bit of saturation or distortion. And this will add some mid-range harmonics that will help us hear that bass line, even if we're not getting the full low end weight from our speaker system. So the TR-8S has lots of effect options. Again, we access these by pressing Edit. And we're going to use this type, which is compressor and drive combined. If we play around with these settings, and we can increase this drive, you can hear that we immediately get some nice gritty mid-range out of this bass line. Let's bring that percussive element back in. And we can play around with the different compressor and drive settings until we get a sound that we're happy with. So That's how to get started creating tuned bass lines with the TR-8S and TR-6S.